What's up everybody, SuperDurks fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2009 Audi TTS. Huge thanks to Paul from Findlay, Ohio for driving all the way from Ohio in order for me to review his awesome TTS for you guys today. So about the Audi TTS, well, this was all new for 2009 here, supposed to obviously give the TT a higher performance model before the RSs came out, and I think it looks spectacular in typical S treatment. I love like how you have these shiny stainless looking mirrors here on them, and the large black grille, and this one of course has some aftermarket wheels that look really sharp on it as well. And overall I think it's just a really cool looking thing. I think the TTs have always been really cool looking for this generation especially, and I think all the S enhancements really help to make it a little bit sharper, a little bit meaner looking, and overall it looks great, especially in white. First, for the interior of the TTS, well, it's really great. I love the red and black leather in this one. It just looks really nice, especially with the white. Anyway, though, first things first, sitting down in these seats, really nicely shaped seats. They just feel really good. You have good torso support here, very, pretty hefty bolstering that's not overly aggressive. Same goes for the thigh support here. Just really ideal seats, honestly. They're very comfortable, still feel very sporty, though, and overall, they're just really great seats. Next is the steering wheel on the TTS, which, again, is really perfect, honestly. Nice flat bottom, very nicely leather wrapped. I love the red stitching once again, and has a really nice 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches as well. And again, just a fairly thin wheel that just feels really great in your hands, and you have nice metal paddles on the back here, and a few basic buttons, but nothing overly cluttered. Just very nice and simple, and overall just a really great wheel. Next are the gauges in the TTS, which are, again, I love this generation of Audis, all of them. I mean, the S5 that I reviewed, they all have a similar kind of thing with the interior, and I love all the gauges in these S model Audis. Very nice with the gray background there, very attractive and sporty looking font. I love the thinness of the needles. Everything about them just looks really, really great. And of course, now with Audi going all digital, this is the last hurrah here for these really nice sharp gauges, I think, and I'm really going to miss them because they look great. You do have just a basic black and white screen there in the middle, so that's showing its age a bit. Just your basic information there. Nice to have a digital speedometer though. Otherwise though, like I just said, these gauges are just really great to look at. And because this one has been modified here and is running some higher boost, we also have an AEM True Boost gauge here in one of the air vents, and so very nicely integrated in there. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, it's really great. So you have the Audi Navigation Plus head unit here, which again is starting to show its age here after about 7 years or so. But all the same basic stuff. It's fairly easy to navigate with this little, the little knobs and whatnot. I wish it was touchscreen, but it's still easy enough to use, for the radio and stuff like that. Most people aren't going to use the nav in here. You just use your phone these days. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. Nice, fairly high resolution screen for the time as well, and overall pretty good. And then coming down, all the actual knobs and stuff are just so high quality, and even to this day are just really amazing with just how, I guess, upscale they look and just how nice they feel. And they really hit it out of the park here with these Audi TTSs. It just looks really nice in here. I like the brushed stainless steel look to it, and yeah, just overall, not too cluttered, just very simplistic. Everything you need, nothing you don't. As far as store space in the TTS, this is where it's a little bit sparse. So you have a generously sized map pocket here in the door. Not large enough for a bottle holder though, but a good pocket there nonetheless. And then coming over the center here, there's not a whole lot. So you have an ashtray that's even small as far as ashtrays go, and then your power outlet, cigarette lighter thing there. But good for storing some coins, things like that. Coming to the back here, you do have a very nice padding on the e-brake handle since there isn't an actual armrest, and that's a very nicely thought out thing, and it's really nice and soft, and really feels great to rest your elbow on. So nice little integration there. And then you have the cup holders here, which are, you have like one that's fairly normal size, and then you have this smaller one in the back that's basically unusable for anything other than a sippy cup. And so yeah, not a whole lot of space aside from, you know, the one larger cup holder there. And so yeah, just one of the little sore spots. And then in the back here, you do have a nice large tray that you can put some stuff, again, you know, fairly shallow but large, and so nice for storing, you know, a few knickknacks. You also have a power outlet back there. That's basically it. I mean, you know, you have the back seat here, which isn't too usable for humans unless they're children. So you know, that's nice, you know, for throwing stuff back there, and you know, helps with the storage space a little bit. But overall, you know, not a whole lot of storage. Speaking of that back seat though, just to elaborate a little bit more there, you know, you have probably a couple inches of legroom there, as long as the people up front here aren't too tall. So you know, you could squeeze, like I said, some kids back there, someone in a pinch, but you would definitely not want to, you know, use it as a normal full-size back seat or anything, because you do have that sloping roofline as well, which will limit your headroom pretty severely. And so, but yeah, nice to have a back seat at all there, compared to, you know, competition like the 370Z and Cayman that don't offer it at all. Trunk space in the TT is always pretty good. You know, you have the hatchback versatility there, and those rear seats do fold down, so you can make it actually quite long and able to transport, you know, some larger items. And you know, it's pretty nice. And even with those rear seats up there, you do have a good amount of space there. Of course, this one has a subwoofer in the back, which is going to limit that, of course. But without that in there, you could see, of course, you would have a good amount of space, you know, for a couple suitcases easily, you know, and so overall, a very usable sports car in that way as well. All right, so sorry, we're gonna go for a drive. Audis of this generation, you know, still have the switchblade key, and so you just slip it into the keyhole here. It starts right up. All right, so before we get started out here, I'm just going to read off the modifications this car has. It's APR Stage 2, which includes their Stage 2 tune, of course, but it also has the fuel pump by APR as well. It also has a 42 Draft Designs high flow intake, and also the same company makes a turbo back exhaust that this car has as well. Plus, it also has a new speed turbo discharge pipe. So all those things make it very loud, which you'll hear in a minute. All right, so setting off in the 2009 Audi TTS. So first thing you notice, now this one, all the TTSs come with the S-Tronic dual clutch automated manual that Audi has been, you know, praised for over the years. It's really good, especially for its time. You know, back in 2009, it was really one of the best, and it still is very quick shifting and very good even with just starting from a stop. There isn't any waiting for the clutch to engage. It's very immediate, and you know, feels very much like an automatic whenever you're just cruising around. Visibility in the TTS is pretty good. So you have a fairly small windshield here, but the hood drops down nicely, so it's very easy to see out of. Nice thin A-pillars as well. You have large side windows here without any kind of B-pillar to get in the way, so excellent side visibility. And view out of the back is spectacular too, with that hatch and a thin C-pillar. You can see around you very, very well in this car. Other things to note, now we're on a bumpy park road here, and it feels really nice. I don't even have the magnetic ride control suspension on yet, and so that, you know, helps with handling and whatnot. It firms it up a little bit here, but you know, even with it off though, it's a very smooth ride for the most part. I mean, it's, you know, a little bit on the firm side, like any of these Audi S models usually feel, but it still just feels very solid and very nice to drive without feeling jarring or anything like that. Alright, so let's turn down onto this back road here and see how this APR Stage 2 TTS does. Here we go. That's fun. Okay, so with the Stage 2 tune, now normally these things stock are 265 horsepower and like 258 pound-feet of torque. The APR tune apparently gives you about 100 more horsepower, so we're looking at probably more around 365, around 300 wheel torque, and listen to the intake and everything. Oh man, it feels like you're taking off in a jet than it does driving a car. Oh man, that exhaust sounds awesome, but it's actually not quite as loud as I was expecting, so that's kind of nice. But this thing, yeah, it really does. You know, the owner told me around 4 grand is where it really picks up, and I can see what he means. There's not a whole lot of low-end torque. Now, a stock TTS, from my memory of driving them years ago, did have a good amount of low-end torque. So, of course, I think the tune kind of trades that low-end torque for the high-end power instead, and good amount of power to really have fun with, and of course being drive here for the TTS. It does an excellent job of putting all that power to the ground. And let's have another go here, shall we? I love those burps on the upshift too. Oh, it's so sweet. Oh, this thing is great. Now, it's a good amount of power, but it's not like mind-blowing or anything. So it still feels very much, you know, I guess streetable, very much, you know, it's still very easy to daily drive. This isn't some absurd amount of power or anything, but it really helps to give the TTS, I think, the extra kick that it really needed, you know, before the RS version, of course, which are a lot more expensive and rare. So this is a really great little package here. Awesome. Another thing that I have to mention about this transmission is it is extremely quick to shift. I mean, it's fantastic. It's still, like, even by modern standards, it's extremely quick, better than the 8-speed automatics in some of these other car companies' cars, and it's really quick. I think maybe PDK is a little bit quicker, but this is really, really close. And the new modern Audi stuff, I think, is probably just a hair quicker as well. But this is fantastic. You know, for 2009, that's why this is one of the best back then. And it feels really good too. So other things to note here, now that we're, you know, on some tighter back roads, is that the steering is a little dead. It doesn't have a ton of weight. I wish it was a little bit heftier feeling and took a little more effort, but it still feels good nonetheless. And brake pedal on this one has some higher miles here, so there's a good amount of travel. But I remember from the factory, these things brand new had some pretty good pedal engagement right towards the top there. Another thing to note is the throttle response is pretty good, but it does take a lot of throttle effort and input in order to you know, really get it going. So just a long travel there for the throttle as well. Coming up to this tight corner, I always take a little bit wet, so we're not going to go super quick, but it sticks really well though. I gotta say, no body roll, and this isn't even on any kind of coilovers or anything, just those larger wheels and different tires. But I mean, it gripped that no problem back there. Like I said, it took a little bit easier because it was, you know, wet out. And you know, very smooth. It's a nice daily driver. Just a really nice thing to just cruise around in too. So it's got both the sedate personality and the aggressive, crazy personality as well whenever you want it. So really nice to have that. But anyway, I'm going to drive this car around for a while longer, go on some more back roads here, and I'll come back and give you guys some of my final impressions. So I've been driving the TTS for a little while longer here now, and man, those crackles and pops on those upshifts are so loud they could wake the dead. I've been like trying to not upshift too much whenever I'm around like houses and stuff, because I don't want to scare the crap out of people. It like literally sounds like there's like a shotgun going off back there. It's crazy. But yeah, so I mean, I love the mods. They make this car so much more fun. I mean, it's great from the factory. You know, it had a good amount of low end torque. You know, I briefly drove them, you know, back when they were new, and you know, they're still fun cars, but this just makes it so much more extreme. And I mean, I do miss the low end torque a little bit sometimes whenever you're carving up a back road and stuff. You get on the power and you don't have as much there. And you know, that also goes back to this transmission, which is fantastic whenever it's in manual mode, and it's, you know, really quick and, you know, does exactly what you want it to do. But whenever it's in the fully automatic mode, it still feels like it's programmed for the stock engine tune. So it wants to upshift very early, and, you know, wants to utilize that low end torque that it thinks is there, and it actually isn't there. So it actually feels pretty sluggish if you just leave it in automatic and let it do its own thing with these modifications. Stock, I'm sure it's fine, and, you know, it would have some power down low there so that it wouldn't have to constantly downshift. But, you know, with this, it's definitely better to, I think, to leave it in the manual mode unless you're straight up really casually cruising, because otherwise the transmission doesn't really utilize this power band the way that you need to with this tune, where it just, oh man, it just turns into a rocket ship over 4,000 RPMs, and it's a ton of fun. But yeah, so I mean, the TTS is, I feel like it's the type of car that is, you know, most at home at like 7/10. You know, you start to push this a little more, more. It's not, you know, the most confidence inspiring, just because, you know, you do have a little bit of understeer there dialed in with the all-wheel drive system and whatnot. I mean, it's very sure-footed, but it doesn't dive into the corners the way a Cayman or something like that would, or even like a BRZ or an FRS. I mean, this is heavier now. I mean, these weigh around 3250 for the curb weight, so a little bit heavier. I mean, that's still not really that heavy though. I think this feels about as heavy as like a 370Z as far as, you know, just feel whenever you're going down the road driving. And that's another car that kind of, it gets cross-shopped with this, although I feel like this doesn't really have any competition, because, you know, this is all-wheel drive and all the competition's rear-wheel drive, really, and so there's really not a whole lot of other choices unless you're looking within the Audi range, you know, stuff like the S5, S4. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of in a class of its own, and it certainly feels different, you know. I mean, I wouldn't cross-shop this with a Cayman or something like that. I think those have a completely different feel. This is a little more luxurious, and it's a little bit of a better Grand Tourer, in my opinion. It's not quite as hardcore, and, you know, can still be daily driven and everything without feeling super extreme or anything like that. And it's nice, you know, having the back seats as well, which a lot of the competition doesn't have. And so, yeah, overall, it's a really fun little thing here. And I mean, it's definitely fun, you know, for the straight line speed too, and the power that you get here from this tiny little 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And it's kind of amazing, you know, just how stout it is. That's one good thing about the S over the standard TTs, is the S has forged internals and whatnot, so it can handle stuff like this APR package a whole lot better than a standard TT would, where you might be, you know, pushing it a little bit more. Whereas this, I think, can handle it pretty well because of, you know, the reinforcements that Audi has made from the factory. One really tight corner here. And I mean, yeah, it does dig in really well, though. I gotta say, it's similar to the S5, honestly, in the way the S5 handles, where, you know, it feels heavy and very sure-footed, but it really does like to, you know, dive into the corners and dig in there with this all-wheel drive system to help power you out of it as well. And it does feel really, really great. And, you know, I feel like especially if you were to do some more extensive modifications to the suspension, it would feel basically invincible, I think. The whole car like shudders whenever you upshift too with this exhaust, and it's pretty loud whenever you do upshift because it's, you know, catless and stuff. But I gotta say, for a catless turbo back exhaust in a small little car, it doesn't really drone that I've felt so far. It's actually not overbearing or, you know, anything. It's not making every panel in here rattle or anything like that. So really a nice exhaust system as well, as far as, you know, aftermarket systems go. It's a really good balance of being loud and crazy, but, you know, being livable as well. But one thing though I do want to mention is this magnetic ride sport suspension that you get here with the TTS, which honestly I can't tell any kind of difference. Honestly, there may be a little less lean in the body whenever you have the sport mode here activated for these magnetic dampers, but I honestly can't tell a difference. And I mean, I've been, you know, trying to push it a little bit more. Obviously, you know, on roads you might not be able to feel it a whole lot. It might be something that, you know, benefits you more at the track if you're going around, you know, tighter corners at higher speeds. But yeah, I mean, so I can't really tell a difference with that, unfortunately. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a baby GTR. That's kind of how this feels, with, you know, crazy fast upshifts and tons of power, you know, the all-wheel drive grip and amazing handling that, you know, figures it all out for you, really. You don't have to, you know, dance it around or anything like that. It's just one of these cars you point and shoot, you go wherever, and it just goes. And that's honestly how it feels. It feels like a baby GTR. Obviously smaller, less power, less extreme than the GTR in its feeling and all that kind of stuff, but a very similar style, I guess. But yeah, so I mean, that's it as far as all my impressions here on the TTS. It's just such a great car. One last little acceleration. So crazy. This thing is awesome. And so yeah, huge thanks to Paul for allowing me to review his awesome TTS here. I can see why he loves this thing. He's selected really the perfect mods, and I would do the same thing to one of these. It's hilarious fun, and just a really great all-around car in just about every way. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on the TTS, especially with these APR mods. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.